Hey, welcome to our show. I hope you're having a great start to your day, and I appreciate you spending time with us here on Atlanta's CW Network. I'm attorney Gary Martin Hayes. In this segment, I want us to discuss bicycle accidents, not only why they happen, but more importantly, how we can prevent them from happening. Let me start by giving you some alarming statistics about bicycle accidents. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, approximately 45,000 people were injured in bicycle accidents. Sadly, 818 people were killed in bicycle crashes in 2015. 720 of those bicyclists that were killed were males, and the average age was 45. 71% of bicycle fatalities occurred in urban areas. Now, these fatal bike accidents are most likely to occur on Fridays and Saturdays. The peak time is between 3 and 9 p.m. 35% of bicycle deaths occurred at or near intersections, and these are certainly scary stats. Now, I'd like to bring in a good friend who's a bicycling enthusiast to discuss bike safety in greater detail. It's Kevin Avery from the Kevin and Taylor Show, heard on 104.7 The Fish here in Atlanta, and syndicated now to almost 100 stations.
We're closing in on 100, getting there closer every day.
Well, congrats on all your success with that.
Thank you.
And thanks for bringing in your expertise here to our show. Bicycling has certainly grown in popularity in the last 10 years, and it appears that it's going to continue to grow not only as a healthy recreational activity, but also a more affordable means of transportation. What about bicycling is so appealing to you as a rider?
I think it's the same thing that we experienced when we were kids. You know, you're like 5, 6, 7 years old and you get your first bike. It's freedom. And even for an adult, you know, you get out on your bike and you leave your phone behind, you leave all your worries behind, and you just ride for an hour or two. And it's a freeing feeling. It really is.
How many miles do you average on your bike a week?
A week, on a good week, about 200 miles. Yeah, between 100 and 200. Usually it's closer to 200 than 100.
When you're out riding, do you spend most of your time on trails or on the highways?
Well, I used to ride on the road until all of the accidents started really happening a ton, and I think more of them started happening because of texting. So I ride usually on the Silver Comet Trail, which is out in Cobb County, and it's all bikes, runners, and joggers. There's no cars on Silver Comet Trail.
All right. Now, as a bicycling enthusiast, what is the number one thing that you'd like to tell everyone watching our show today about bike safety?
I think the biggest thing to keep in mind, if you're riding on the road particularly, is the bike has every right to be out there. A cyclist has every right to be out on the highway as a car does. And for cars to just be patient and aware that cyclists are out there and a part of the flow of traffic.
You're right. You do have equal rights to the roadway. And Adam, if I can get you to put that slide on the screen regarding Georgia law. Okay, OCGA section 46-144 tells us, except as provided by resolution or ordinance of a local government, no person shall drive any vehicle upon a sidewalk. And a bicycle is considered a vehicle under Georgia law. So the law requires bicyclists to ride on the highway.
Right.
They can't ride on the sidewalk.
Right, you can't ride on the sidewalk, but when you're out there on the street, you're supposed to have at least 3 feet from a car passing you. So one of the biggest things I see over and over again is cars attempt to pass when other cars are coming, making it impossible to give 3 feet. So it puts the cyclist at risk, and it puts the oncoming car at risk as well. It just creates a very dangerous environment.
Right, and I want to point out for parents, for children that are 12 years of age or younger, it's perfectly legal for their children to ride their bikes on the sidewalk. Kevin, I'd love for you to share some of the important things that you wish motorists would do when they're on the road and when they come upon a group of bicyclists or a single bicycle rider.
Well, one of the things I did before coming on the show with you was I texted a bunch of my cycling friends and said,
not while you were riding.
No, don't text and ride. And said, what would you want people to know? And the biggest thing they wanted people to know, and I think it's because with the helmet and the sunglasses, you can kind of be a little anonymous. They wanted people to know that their dads, their moms, their husbands, their wives, and they have families and lives, you know, aside from that moment when you see them on the road. So treat them like you would if it was your own spouse, if it was your own husband, your own wife on a bike. You would want to give them a lot of room. You would want to be patient with them. And I don't like getting stuck behind cyclists. It's,
right.
You know, it slows you down. It keeps you from getting where you're going. But the law is they're allowed to be out there. So since that's the law, give them the room that they need.
So take a deep breath. And we're not there yet, but I know we're developing more and more bicycle-friendly roads and highways for
bike lanes
bicycles
too,
to be
right.
on. You had mentioned the 3-foot buffer as a minimum distance that a driver passing a bicyclist needs to give them. If you can safely pass with more than a 3-foot buffer, then please do it. Pull on over. What other things do you want motorists to know?
Just to be aware and looking out for cyclists that we're not, even if you wear high-vis jersey, the bright yellow or bright orange stuff, a lot of times, especially if it's getting darker, you might not be able to see them. So just be aware, be on the lookout that cyclists are out there more now than ever. Also know that they're depending on you to follow the rules of the road. In other words, don't try to be polite and allow them in where they're supposed to be stopping and then get upset when they don't take you up on the offer. I've had a number of run-ins like that where I've stopped at a stop sign and someone wanted to wave me through and it wasn't my turn to go. And that can create a conflict as well.
And I know some people have a tendency to honk when they come upon a bicyclist to let them know that a motorist is behind them. We don't need to do that as motorists on the road, do we?
That's really startling if you're just riding along and all of a sudden beep, beep, beep. So unless it's your spouse and they know your car and you're past them, don't do that.
And don't harass the riders. And here's an important point from a legal standpoint. This could result in criminal charges being pursued against the motorist for reckless endangerment as they're putting the bicyclist at risk of injury. Mm-hmm. Which leads to another question. Have you ever had any close calls while riding your bicycle?
Oh yeah, more than I can count. Tons, particularly at the stat you had, most of the deaths occur at intersections. That's where most of the conflict happens. Most of the cyclists I know, not 100%, but most of them follow the rules of the road, the laws of the road. Motorists that are not following the laws are what creates the problem for cyclists. If you're counting on someone to stop at a red light or not do a rolling stop, and they do, and you're out there in the middle of the intersection, who wins that battle? The cyclist doesn't, the car does. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is for the cyclists are depending on motorists to follow the laws. So just follow them. Don't adapt to the situation. Follow the laws of the road.
Right. So from the motorist perspective, be aware, share the road, slow down when around bicyclists. Don't text and drive. But what important safety rules would you want to share with bicyclists now to help prevent these accidents from ever happening?
Always to be aware of what's going on around you. When you hear cars coming behind you, make sure that you're not drifting out into the road. Particularly if you turn around to look, it's really easy to kind of lean a little bit and drift out into traffic without even knowing it. So just be really careful when you're doing that. And then one of the biggest things I see is when it's dusk or even dark. I'll see people riding early in the morning and it's completely dark out and they're not nearly as visible as they should be. Try to light yourself up like a Christmas tree with a rear tail light, a front light, and high-vis clothing.
One of the major defenses that insurance companies try to employ in a case where a motorcycle or a bicyclist rather is struck by a car is, I didn't see the rider, or I saw them too late because I just wasn't paying attention, or they weren't wearing the high visibility clothing. They weren't lit up, as you said, like a Christmas tree. What colors would you suggest that people wear? What kind, or where should they actually place the lights on their bike to make sure they're visible?
Yeah, a tail light right underneath the seat, particularly a really bright strobe light people can see, one of those that flashes a ton. On the front, you can get the same thing as a headlight with a white light, LED. If it's flashing, people will see that. And then the neon reflective gear that you see, you can head in your local cycle shop and they'll have tons of stuff. Even incorporated into the jerseys and the shorts themselves, they'll have reflective striping now. So it's not really a problem to find any of it. It's just a matter of being willing to spend to stay safe.
And the reflective tape as well, the lighting on the helmet.
Sure.
All right, and here's one stat I want to throw out. Half of all bicycle accidents occur at intersections.
Not surprised at that at all. Like I said earlier, that's where I've had most of my conflicts and confrontations have come at intersections.
Now, head injury, that's the #1 cause of deaths in bicycle accidents. And Georgia law requires you to wear a helmet if you're 15 years of age and under. But if you're 16 or older, you don't legally have to wear it, but think of what can happen if you don't.
Oh, I'm always surprised when I see adults, particularly a dad riding with his kids, and the kids have the helmets on, but dad doesn't want to wear the helmet, or he'll have it hanging around his handlebars. It's not going to do you any good if it's hanging on your handlebars. I wear one all the time. Professional riders wear them all the time. If it's cool enough for them, it's cool enough for you.
And spend the money on a helmet that's going to fit.
Oh, yeah.
Not one that tilts back where the forehead is exposed in the event they were to fall. Same with the kids. Make sure you have proper fitting there.
Right. You don't want to go cheap on a helmet.
No. No. Any final thoughts on bicycle safety that you would like for our viewers to know?
Just for motorists really to be aware, and like so many people said, please be aware, they're human beings on the bikes. It's not just a guy with sunglasses and a helmet. It's a mom, it's a dad, it's a brother, it's a coworker, and they're just out there trying to get some exercise. So be aware of them. And then for cyclists too, in the same way, be respectful of the motorists, because I've seen a lot of cyclists can cop an attitude with motorists. Don't do that, because the bike loses that battle.
This is great advice for everybody. And Kevin, I really appreciate your time, your expert advice on this area. Please be safe.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
All right. Well, thank you. And you can hear Kevin and Taylor weekday mornings on 104.7 The Fish. Please give Taylor our best. And thanks again for being here.